Welcome to Viewing Gods, Explosion Network's American Gods Aftershow. I'm Don Blight, and joining me, the true Australian god, Nicholas Pryor.
Here I am.
Here you are, once again.
Now before me.
All right, so this week we're talking about episode 204, of course, called The Greatest Story Ever Told, directed by Stacey Passon, written by Peter Colloway and Aditi Brennan Kapil. This week, basically, we got to see Shadow rejoin with Wednesday, of course, where they met up at the end of last episode, and then they go on a mission to find the money god called Money. But I find it weird to say money as in the name of a person, so I'm just referring to them as the money god, the money god. Bilquis returns to the funeral home and sparks a bond with Nancy and Ibis there, and then we get to see Technical Boy fail one last final time for Mr. World, which of course leads to him being retired this episode. What are your overall thoughts for this week's episode, Nick?
Not liking it. I think I'm about ready to call done with this show, man. I don't know. We're halfway there.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I thought this episode was all right. I thought this was
individual moments were all right, but I don't know.
I thought this was possibly the best episode of the season.
I don't know. It's just straying too far from what I expected from the show, and I just don't think it's for me anymore, to be honest.
Fucking hell. We're on sad times. Yeah, I thought it was. I honestly thought it was probably the best episode of the season because we got this story with Technical Boy, and they do an interesting thing there where it's like, basically this story of what happens when people decide they don't need a certain god anymore. Like it's a story of a god losing everyone. Like he kind of has to stand there literally in front of his last follower, I guess, to a point, and then have him just turn away from him, and then that leads to his end. And they'd kind of been playing on this thing of Technical Boy throughout the season so far, where it's like, okay, even if you are Technical Boy, like so many other things have strung from you to a point where it's like, are you even necessary anymore? Where you've got, it's like, we got Argus over here, we got Media over here, we got all these other people that are using tech, but no one really cares about you anymore. There's all these other different strains of God, I guess. So I thought that was interesting. And then I thought the Shadow and the Wednesday stuff was probably the least interesting stuff of the episode, but whatever. Then I did really like all the stuff we got with Bilquis and Ibis and stuff, because they also add an interesting element to the dynamic of the show going forward, because although up until this point you kind of thought that Nancy was going to be on Wednesday's side no matter what. Like he seemed very like, ride or die. But then in this thing, he's like, he's not saying he's going to like rise up against Wednesday, but he's like, we're kind of got to stick out for ourselves. And he has his own agenda, I guess, to a degree, and these sorts of things, especially when he points out the stuff about Zoroya, which we'll get to, and if she was black, and all these sorts of things. So I thought that added an interesting dynamic to the show when it was kind of becoming too much like, is everyone just going to do what Wednesday says to a degree? Like no one's going to ever question anything and just come along. And even though I thought the Shadow and Wednesday stuff was the least interesting this episode, I still think between this episode and the previous one, I'm kind of actually liking the direction they're taking Shadow, because they're actually building him to have some sort of backbone finally. Like he's asking questions, he's being like, no, you're lying, or like he's showing a bit more something compared to just the first season where he was just mindlessly kind of just floating along and whatever. And this time he's like, no, you're full of shit. You're not going to tell me the truth, but fuck you, you're full of shit, and all this stuff over here and whatever else is going on. I just feel like they're actually kind of, I'm not saying I'm loving his character, but I feel like they're actually trying, and I'm feeling it.
I don't necessarily disagree with any of that. It's just, I don't know, watching it, I just feel like, I just don't feel enthralled with it anymore. Like all those individual points are great. Yeah, there's things in it that are fine, but I don't know, it's just not grabbing my attention like it used to. I don't know what it is, why it's like that. I just can't explain it really, to be honest.
No,
I think a lot of it is just it's so disconnected in a way, I imagine.
What do you mean?
Oh, we'll get into it into the individual points later on in the episode, but yeah.
Okay.
Just not feeling it.
Fair enough. All right, so before we jump into the kind of three main storylines that we have, we'll go over the prologue scene, if you want to call it that, I guess.
Coming to America, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it's a Coming to America. But is it? That's the part that confused me, you know?
I interpret it as the birth of Technical Boy.
Okay, interesting. So, yeah, the opening scene has this... I thought it was really weird at first, and I was trying to figure out what... I'm like, are we going to have a video game god? Is that where we're... I was like, is that where we're going with this whole thing? I was quite confused. But, yeah, you see this kid, and he's playing, he's playing Pong, and then he's getting told to do piano lessons, and then he's straight back on Pong afterwards, and then he grows up and he's on his Game Boy and he's doing the thing, like he's constantly playing video games and switching back and forth between following the music stuff his dad wants him to do and just his head in computers and stuff. And then as he gets older, he starts learning how to code and all these things, and you follow it through to basically he's in college, I suppose, or whatever they call it in America.
Something like that.
He's there and he suddenly has an epiphany moment where he takes all of box music, puts it into a computer through a coding thing, and then basically has an AI write a whole bunch of music based on what it knows from his music, which he then plays his dad, and his dad's like super impressed, and he's like, oh, it's emotional and stuff. And then when he explains that the computer wrote it, you can tell that his dad's like really disappointed because he previously in the episode previous to this, he had talked about how there was such story behind the music and emotion and like there was all these things behind it. And now his son's kind of just telling him that he took away any sort of story or emotional or anything to the music, and it's just like the computer wrote it, it's just nothing. You know? It may sound good, but it doesn't have the emotional backing to any of the other music that he taught his son growing up. Then we get to his dad dies from something we don't really know. It's not important, but he's at the funeral for his father. There's a whole bunch of people there, and then Technical Boy appears because reasons.
Well, the way I interpreted it was because back when he was younger, the father is explaining to Bark and he goes, this is how I pray. And then later on, he shows him the computer composed music and it made him really sad or whatever, like no hope for the world kind of thing. I interpreted that he committed suicide. And then, of course, the son was like playing. That was technically part of the reason why he died. And the son was playing that computer composed music at his funeral. That was the first sacrifice to technology, because gods thrive off sacrifice. So,
well, I mean, I didn't. Yeah, I mean, you could be right. Yeah, I didn't. Maybe my mind wasn't willing to go down the dark hole of his son fucked up the piano music, so he went off and killed himself
because he was so just. That was his father's identity, kind of thing.
Music. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I can buy it. It becomes a lot sadder all of a sudden if that's what actually did happen. I took the because then of course after Technical Boy appears here and he's like playing the piano or whatever, kind of, I guess. And I was really confused because I'm like, is he only just seeing him? But like that's not how gods work.
Yeah,
that was the only part that was kind of confusing me. But then of course we cut to the rest of the episode and it's very confusing for the rest of it to be like, what is any of this? Was that a Coming to America? Was that going to be necessary? It kind of is necessary by the end of the episode, of course. But I took the kid as like, they just made this character that's like, hey, this could be Bill Gates or Steve Jobs or someone. Like that's who it was kind of supposed to represent to a degree, I guess. Like
the first worshipper of technology or something.
Yeah, and then by the end of the episode, it's like the head of, he's the CEO of some big conglomerate of sorts and some big technical tech company or something. But then it's funny because Technical Boy in that scene does have an Apple phone. I'm like, maybe they should just pay. Maybe they should ask Apple for the sponsorship, made him actually the CEO of Apple and something that would have been.
Give him a turtleneck.
Give him a turtleneck. It could have been something a lot more interesting. So we'll come back to that kid, of course, by the end of the episode. Let's get Shadow and Wednesday's story for this episode out of the way first, because as I said, I thought it was the least interesting of stuff that was happening. So the episode starts with this weird moment with Shadow having sex with a cat lady, which seems
is Bast, the goddess Bast. She's the goddess of like fertility and healing and all that kind of stuff, Egyptian goddess. So
okay,
in a way, that's him being, because if we remember at the end of the last episode, if you don't wake up feeling $1 million, whatever,
yes,
or can it, and then obviously during the night that happens and he's rejuvenated and healed and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I thought it was a really weird scene because it just feels like this forced explanation of how he's healed from the train wreck and stuff.
In the book, it's a lot better because there's a lot more surrealist and like they're going through all different kind of landscapes and things happening in the book, where this is just in reality just a plain old sex scene in a fucking bedroom.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, very vague and
it's like really she licks him,
licks his armpit.
She licks him, and then she makes more scars, and then they have sex, and then he's like, "Oh, my wife," and
yeah,
I'm like, okay, this is a weird way to start the episode. It was probably the weirdest scene in the episode, and then I didn't find the morning stuff too funny either, where he's just kind of like, "Did you have a good sleep?" Wait, Ibis is like, "Did you have a good night?" And he's like, yes.
I actually saw a funny tweet from, I don't know, an account that claimed him to be Shadow Moon. Is like, "I did not ever have sex with my cat. I have never had sex with cats." All that kind of stuff.
That's funny, actually. So yeah, he talks to Ibis a bit in the morning, and then Wednesday, of course, appears, and as they're heading out the door to head off, he makes remarks about did you wounds get licked, or some bunch of rubbish he says. So then they head off to their destination is St. Louis. Although I took it that that's the diner they're in for the rest of the episode when they get there must be in St. Louis, right? But
I imagine so.
It's funny how they set their destination as St. Louis, and then all they do they never really show anything. It's like the diner could be in the highway on the halfway point there or anything. Like it's just a random ass diner that they don't show any cityscape or like anything that makes you add a bit more personality. No, we can't do that. We can't afford to go shoot or get footage.
We use the same fucking set.
Yeah, no fuck around. We just need to change around the set from the first episode a little bit. That's fine. But they do see Mama G. Is that who you're saying?
Yeah, Mama G.
Mama G there, who was actually quite funny in this scene because she explains that she's like, I have to work my ass off to keep this shit alive, and then Wednesday and her have a little back and forth about how he's like, don't you miss the battles? And I remember when you killed something or other. I can't remember the person's name. Like you killed someone or other, and all you could hear was the wind whistling through the blood on the grass that day. And then she's like, it was a good battle. Like, so I enjoyed that back and forth a bit. I thought that was quite funny. Then they have as they're sitting around a bit, these Girl Scouts walk in, which I didn't know was relevant until later, of course. But I was like, why are they showing us these fucking Girl Scouts? It's really weird.
I think they were the way they walked in wasn't very human either. They were very rigid, I guess.
Yeah, they were, but I was still
regimented,
what the fuck are these supposed to be? What is it?
Oh, yeah.
Like, are they bad guys or good guys? What's going on with these Girl Scouts? I didn't think, they must be fucking minions of money because Girl Scout cookies and whatever else. But so as they're sitting around for a bit, Shadow and Wednesday end up having this conversation about because Shadow's still pushing him for information about why Wednesday picked him and all these sorts of things, of course. And Wednesday seems to crack, or makes it out like he's cracked, and is like, fine, I'll tell you, it's because no one loves you in your current life, and no one's going to love you when you die, and basically no one wants you, and you've got nothing to live for. That's why I wanted you. And Shadow doesn't care really for what he says, because he's like, everything you just said is crap. I'm not believing a word of it. You actually need me. Yeah. And Wednesday doesn't really deny it. He's just kind of like, believe what you want, I guess. The answers come to you when you deserve them, not when you ask for them, or whatever the fuck he said of the episode. So then eventually the Girl Scouts ask if they're like, oh, Wednesday, do you want to buy anything? And he's like, yeah, sure. Heads over, and they are revealed to be. They have the fucking the what's-it-called symbol on them, right? What's the
Illuminati?
Yeah, Illuminati fucking symbols strapped on top of them. So I'm like, okay, so money, Illuminati, yes, okay, I guess that all connects.
Which is odd because that's kind of fucking worlds kind of thing. So odd.
Maybe money's already working for World.
Possibly.
Dun dun dun. Maybe that's all some big secret twist. So they start checking into. I will say there was also a scene before this. I forgot to mention real quickly, which was the actual money scene where Shadow's asking why money is important to gods at all, and then Wednesday does this. I thought it was cool explanation of like, this is just paper, but for whatever reason. Humans have got to a stage where it's like, you see this paper? I want that thing you've got, that salt and pepper shaker or whatever. Here, have this paper for it. You happy? Yeah, you're happy. Good. It's like, it's true. I mean, it is all just paper of some sort.
The most powerful god in the world.
Yeah, it's just throwing around crap. So, he explains that was the greatest story ever told. Money, the episode title. So, not as was kind of saying last week, could have been.
Something to do with Ibis,
something like that or anything. So then he talks to the Girl Scouts. They check his bank details. Basically, they then ask for Shadow's bank details and discover he doesn't actually have any sort of credit history or anything, and it's because he's like, I let Laura do everything for me. What? I don't have a bank account. So then they refuse to let them have an audience with money because Shadow doesn't have a bank account or any sort of credit history check. So I don't know. I was like, it's a scene that it happens. And then they're left to sort that mess out, and then we'll kind of come back to them because it makes sense after the rest of the stuff. So Bilquis in this episode returns to the funeral home right as Shadow is leaving. Although she then explains that she's coming back there to find Shadow. I presume that she just, because she caught up this intrigue with Shadow in that first episode. So I don't know if she's the love god. I guess she just wants to eat him all up inside her and do what she does, I guess, is her intrigue with him. But she heads into the funeral home, and then she begins talking to this woman who's been sitting there for a couple days too early, for the funeral that's going to happen to one of her family members or something. Begins talking to her a little bit, and then Nancy walks in, which I was like, what? Because it's so weird tracking people this episode somewhat, because Nancy got into the car Wednesday, and they were like, we're going on a fucking trip. And we was like, I don't know where you are going, but okay. Then Wednesday parks the car on the train tracks. Nancy says, fuck this shit. I'm out. Starts walking away. I'm like, okay, where's he going? Then Wednesday, fucking.
No, when he walks out, he goes, I'll see you in Cairo.
Okay. Okay. Then but they're like, get in the car. They're on a trip. Park the car thing. And then somehow I don't know. Like, sometimes it's like, how did he get there? Where's he been? What's going on? I don't really know. But so he begins talking to Bilquis and like pointing out, basically just throwing shit on her for her running backwards and forwards, switching sides and this sort of thing. And she's saying, she's basically saying she's picked to side with them, although he's saying, don't trust you. No, don't really trust you at all. And so I'll have to do my own rain checks on top of that one, Bilquis, sorry. But she tries to say it's because they killed Zoroya, and that's why. Like
he said, World would have an easier time having me join his side if they hadn't killed her.
Yeah, if they hadn't have killed her, and so which comes back to kind of what I was saying, I guess, in that first episode about how that would, like, them killing her would come back to help Wednesday, really, because I was like, although it's
a rallying cry,
it's a rallying cry for a lot of people, so that's apparently what it is to her as well. So I have a bit of back and forth about that. It's fine, I guess. It wasn't super interesting. Not the scene that stood out to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Bilquis just seems to be a nothing character for me. Just boring. Just not interesting at all. Just boring.
I don't really know what her goal is, I guess, currently.
Yeah, but the way of achieving it or way of just moving throughout the show is boring.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's done nothing all season, which is the problem, because it's like they set her up in the first episode. She turns up there with everyone else. It's like, okay, Bilquis is going to be a big player this season. In what regard? Yet to be seen. It's like, okay, I'm on board. Show me how Bilquis is going to be a big player this season. Episode 2, she has a 2-minute scene sitting there talking with Wilt. Episode 3, she's not in the episode at all. Episode 4, we're now halfway through the season. She turns back up at the funeral home. What is your goal, lady? What are we doing? I mean, I want to like you, but you're not winning me over completely. I'm hoping by their pact and their team that's formed in this episode could lead to some potentially interesting things, I suppose. But it's like, we're halfway through the season. Couldn't we have like potentially got here earlier? Maybe. I don't really know. So they head into the room where Ibis is, and her and Bilquis and Ibis basically just talk about the old days is what I just took it as. They're like, oh, remember this? Remember this thing that was a thing and whatever else. And then I actually thought this was really great. Well, it's really great because it's a great performance from Orlando Jones, I thought, and then also it was a well-written piece that is obviously tuned for current day, like political landscape and stuff. But I think that works given.
I agree. It's great. It's a moving speech. I agree with everything that's said, but in the context of the show, it doesn't really make sense to me. Like, he has a similar sort of speech to the slaves on the ship.
Yes.
But the slaves on the ship rose up and they died, which was in turn a sacrifice to him, which gave him the power to actually get to America. So to me, it doesn't really make sense that he would be concerned about that kind of stuff when all of that is in turn a type of sacrifice towards him.
I don't know. It's hard.
It just seems to be like, gods don't seem to care about what mortals think or what goes on with what happens to the people that worship them. It's just, as long as they get the worship itself. Like, for a way to rally those two gods to their side, it just doesn't, I don't know, it's just not poignant enough. Like, I agree, it's definitely meant for modern social goings-ons, and it's a powerful speech, but I don't know. In the context of the show, it just doesn't. I know, it just doesn't seem like a plausible thing.
I guess I understand and I agree to a point. Your like thing about like, sure, because the gods that we know, as far as we know, that they're not out to help humans. Like normal, they're out to just stay powerful.
Self-serving. At the end of the day, all of them are self-serving.
Yeah. So then it is like, I understand everything, his speech, but then it's like, what do you actually mean that? What's that actually mean? Like going forward, like what is the plan? What do you want to do? Like, I'm open to being like, he could have potentially been a bigger arsehole years ago, and like he's just like we can't be against the idea of gods changing.
No,
you know what I mean? Like,
I think there's also a thing you got to keep in the back of your mind. He's a trickster god as well.
That's true. But I think this is a legit thing, because pretty much for this entire season so far, he's had a lot of quirks and a lot of random lines about certain things that kind of play into this stuff. Like even that shitty fucking chicken joke, I guess, if you want to count that as building towards him having a bigger problem with current day America and racial problems and racial tendencies and whatever else. Because I would need to go back and rewatch the whole speech, because I thought it was really, really good actually, and because he's on about, he's basically saying that African American youth, I guess, are basically slaves from birth still. The schooling system fucks them. It's like if you're ever sent from school to jail, or they ever sent from school to NFL if they get lucky, which then they're treated like shit. And then it even has like the line about when they're not even allowed to take a knee. So there's a lot of obviously lines that make a lot of sense for 2019, and the show is set current day, so
it is.
it's not ridiculous to have him saying all these things. And it's like, if you're going to do a show and do a character like this, why not play off what's actually happening at the moment? Because a lot of what's happening at the moment does work well for stuff to do in the show for this sort of character.
Like I said, I agree with all that point of view. It's just, I don't know, just in the context of the show, it just is a way to motivate other gods doesn't seem like plausible. Like if he was rallying supporters to sacrifice to him or something like that, I'd totally believe it. But I don't know. That's just the way I'm thinking about it.
Well, I mean, he's rallying the two in the room, I guess, to do what though is the question. There's no they don't exactly go, here's what our plan is, here's what we should be doing.
Yeah.
He's more or less saying, I just took it as, look, there is a war coming. And the entire time he's been very much for this war. He's always been like on Wednesday's side, like a war's happening, fuck those guys, fuck them. But I think he's now like, there's a war coming and Wednesday's doing his thing. And sure, I'm with Wednesday. But he's like, if Zoroya was black, would all these people, including Schoenberg's Hammer, be along for the ride? And he's like, no. If she was black, people wouldn't give a shit.
I never interpreted the gods as being racially conscious. They were just gods. Like Mama G and all the others are treated equal. Like that particular line doesn't work because the reason Schoenberg is so angry is because it was his sister, not because of her race. He was so nonchalant about the whole thing. If it had been another god, if it had been Bilquis or Anansi or something, I don't think he would have been as all in either.
No, I think that I get it, but it's a line that works, I guess, if you don't think too much about it.
I guess it's certainly meant for the current day audience and political landscape, but as part of the story in that particular point, just doesn't work for me.
Fair enough. So it basically ends with just he does the whole rallying cry and then begins making out with Bilquis, and that was funny because you get to see a shot of Ibis in the back standing there like really awkward.
Do I just go now?
Yeah, do I just walk out or what? And then they finish. He's like, we should have a trick, everyone. So it's like the start of something is what I took as, and as the start of some potential like them being a team or something. I'm intrigued to see where that can go because the thing is also I just want to see more. I just want to see more Nancy because Orlando Jones is so good every time he speaks in the show. He's got such character and presence that I'm just like, yes, just whatever leads to you being more on screen.
Prominent,
yes, that's what I need, please. Thank you. Because we didn't, season 1, obviously, not that much. Season 2, they like, hey, he's going to be a main player. Slowly, and then he's like slowly getting more and more, but we haven't really seen too much. So now I'm just like, I want to see him actually, I don't know, like not kill someone, but like do some sort of something of substance.
Do something of import.
Yeah, just do something. A lot of this show, American Gods in general, is a lot of there's a war, there's a war, there's a war, there's a war, there's a war. Okay, there's a lot of just chit chat, but not a lot of.
Show me the fucking war.
Yeah, I don't actually mean like an action scene. I don't want this show to be an action movie or something ridiculous like that. But a lot of time, at some degree, it is like, okay, when is like stuff?
Yeah,
okay.
It's at the moment it's just all their own sides being their own separate sides. There's no like barely any interaction between the two.
Yeah. So it's like, if you're going to do this rallying cry, Nancy, about how fucked up America is at the moment, what's the show going to do? Is it brave enough to go kill, is it brave enough to have him go try and do something to like the president or something? And not call it Donald Trump, but you know what I mean? Like make out like it is Trump. I don't think the show's going to do that, but something like that is what I kind of want to see instead. Just like, okay, right, problems, America, go do something for it. Just fucking put your foot down on the gas pedal here. Go do something crazy. I need to see it. but that's how that ends. Bilquis' final scene for the episode is her returning to, and I don't know if this is important at all, but she returns to that girl in the funeral home part, and we learn her name is Ruby Goodchild, which means nothing to me. I don't know.
It doesn't mean anything to me.
It doesn't mean, okay, so relevant to be determined.
Possibly.
Possibly.
Might be a minor character from the book that I don't remember.
Yeah.
It has been quite a minute since I read it.
She then begins talking to her about Jesus, and like she basically says that Jesus didn't die for our sins. Jesus died because he was a fucking asshole and he pissed people off. Yeah. It's like how it all plays out. But then she's like, but although he did die because he was an asshole and got himself into trouble, he does now have a fuck ton of followers in death. And Bilquis kind of seems like intrigued by this fact that Jesus in death has kind of won the game somewhat. Like one of the biggest gods, I guess. Yeah.
Is bigger than what he actually was.
Yeah. And what he was is, according to her, what he was is a lie. So it's worked out perfectly for Jesus, old Jesus over there. So many Jesuses we know. The story got
Mexican Jesus.
Yeah. That's still one of the best scenes from season 1, I think. All right, so let's move on to what I think is the main story of this episode, which is Technical Boy's story for this episode. So the first thing we get to see of him is the repercussions for his failure with Argus in the episode previous. He's like sitting around talking to media a bit, and then World comes in, and World, as soon as he enters the room, you can tell he's pissed off because, and they do this later in the episode as well, like he's not calm at all. He's shaking somewhat, and I think they're making, is this something to do with his character being so like quiet and soft-spoken to a degree? I was kind of taking it as like, because he always speaks, like sit down and stuff. I'm like, does he speak like that because he's actually just constantly suppressing his anger or something? Because then the couple times in this episode we see him break, of course, and he's basically like, in the last scene in this, he's sweating. You can see stuff like coming off his face. Like the more he breaks, the angry and visually more angry he gets. So I don't know if that's a thing, but
it might be a bit of column B, because I don't think we've ever talked about or it's been explained. World is a god of conspiracy theories. So everyone that thinks like 9/11 was an inside job, or the Illuminati, or the Rothschild bankers and all that kind of stuff, he's the god of all those kind of beliefs, conspiracies and stuff. So I don't know.
Flat earthers.
Yeah, like all conspiracy theorists. I don't know if that's a part of him being like whispering, kind of like, I don't know, just like whispering in the shadows and that kind of stuff is a characterization of that as well.
Could be, I guess. I don't know. I just find it interesting that I've never been able to figure out if it was a Crispin Glover choice or it was something to do with the actual character. And not until this episode, I was like, could be something to do with the character, I guess, because previously I just thought it must have been a Crispin Glover. This will be cool, guys. This will be cool. Don't worry. We'll just speak really quiet and it'll be creepy for the character. Trust me, I've got this.
Yeah. I think those statements can be true.
Yeah, that's true. So he comes into the room and he basically goes off at Technical Boy for fucking up Argus, and then grabs him.
All the mountain on him.
Yeah, like really, fucking pokes his eyes out. Well, doesn't poke them out, but pokes his eyes digitally in. What?
I don't know. Yeah.
Whatever's happening, I'm not 100% sure, but either way. Technical Boy wasn't a big fan of it, that's for sure. And then I also thought I kind of liked Media in this scene a little bit more because she has that whole thing where she's like kind of watching. She's like, oh, and then when he stands up, she's just like, oh, like gives him a little like, oh, you're in trouble thing. And then after this, he heads off to this. Technical Boy heads off to a company. We don't know what it is, some building. But he says
it's a cool looking building though.
It's a cool looking building.
Infinity symbol.
Yeah. On the thing, and he's like, oh, of course, like, and it's I enjoyed. I can see a lot of people hating this joke here, but I actually thought it was funny where he's walking through and he starts getting text messages and pulls out the phone, and it's so corny that it says new media. Like he's like typed into his phone new media as the person, and then she just starts sending through these things like you're going to be in trouble, like the pig fucking emoji and stuff. I could see a lot of people hating that.
It's showing up on the screen wall.
Yeah. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was funny, and
I think it worked well.
I'm enjoying those two characters' interaction actually the last 2 episodes. So
don't get used to it.
Yeah, don't get used to it though. But for what we got, I was like, okay, interesting. I like them. So he enters, Technical Boy enters this room at the end of the place or whatever, and inside is the grown up kid from the start of the episode who doesn't really have a name because I guess he's not really important. It's about what he stands for more so than who he is. So just he's down as the CEO in the credits. So he begins talking to him, and the CEO is like, "Oh, you're back. Are you back to show me something or something along these lines?" So it's obviously been quite a long time since the two of them have seen each other.
Last time they saw each other was the funeral,
or like possibly the day after. I don't know. Like if you want to say you hung around for a day, maybe, because it seems like they had some sort of connection, especially the way Technical Boy is upset so much by the end of it. Potentially because it's, I guess we're saying if that's coming to America, then it's like. But that's the thing that confused me. Like technology and putting a full stop, like this is what technology is, and where Technical Boy would be born is a weird conversation to me, because I'm like, what is technology? You could go back to.
That's certainly an argument, but I don't know if just because I have a mirror here doesn't mean there's a god of mirrors. I imagine it's somebody that is so fully enthralled and worships the thing that it actually becomes a god. So just because there was technology before that, he was the first one to really worship it as that kind of level.
Yeah.
At least that's the way I interpreted it.
Yeah, I can take that. I just often wonder, I'm like
because in reality, then technology would be an old god, wouldn't it? Because of the wheel and tools and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm saying. I'm like, I don't know. They try and say that obviously they've always said that technology, the god of technology, has been a new age thing, and they've constantly said that since season 1 with the way he dresses and he's fucking vaping and all these sorts of things. Whereas if he was an old god, it would be way more interesting, because then it would be like, are you on the wrong side, motherfucker? Like,
exactly, yeah.
Because so he heads in and he talks to the dude a bit, the CEO dude, and basically I was confused, but I took it as he wanted him to like help him create a system where they could like hack into all the cameras on phones and everything around the world and turn that into
I imagine he wanted him to do that thing in the Batman Rises or whatever, or Returns, where Lucius Fox creates that thing with all the phones and stuff.
Yes, that's what I took it as. Something like that. And then bring it all together, and then you've got literally a full map of the world and all the information. Better than Argus's system is basically what it would have been, is what he wanted to do. But it was a really weird way that I was explaining it, because he's explaining to him as he's like hinting, and he's like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I think I know what you're fucking saying. I'm not really sure. Then the CEO though, like, listening to him, and he seems to ask for proof of something, I guess, or like do it, basically do a party trick or
exactly. Yeah, it wasn't entirely clear what happens here.
No, I found it quite confusing. What I took it as is he asked him to do something. I don't know if it's to prove it's him or just to impress him again or something. Something along those lines is what I took it as. But then because Tech Boy is so weak and underpowered, he's literally unable to perform, I guess.
I think in a way he has become, the CEO himself has become despondent and disconnected and not kind of like as awed by technology anymore. And I guess it's a way for him to prove it to him to get reinvigorated with it, but then Technology Boy or whatever couldn't produce. So, yeah.
Or is it like a thing of like, even if he could do what he could do, like, technology itself as a thing has surpassed even the god of technology.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. I suppose nobody thinks about the phone itself. It's more about what you can do on it, which is in a way of like media versus technology. In a way,
which is something they have been obviously hinting at
leading
a lot
towards,
in the last couple of episodes,
especially when Crispin Glover goes, I've never seen
I read
that arguing against his own obsolescence.
Yeah, I wrote that down. I thought that was good because he just enters and I've never seen a god argue against his own obsolescence. So, and that's why he enters the room. And it's true because he's just standing there and he's like, because Technical Boy's like, oh yeah, because and I just took it as he's so under worshipped these days that he literally just can't even anymore with whatever he's asking him to do or anything along those lines, because or else why wouldn't he just do it?
Exactly.
There's no reason for him not to do it unless he literally just cannot do it because no one cares about him anymore. So World in this scene though, when he does enter there, is as I was saying before, he is proper like sweating. He has stuff running down his face. He's truly fucking pissed off at this point, and he makes the information, I guess, that the dude needs appear on the screen somehow?
No, media
makes it appear.
Screen,
Media pops up as like, this is the future. And then, of course, the CEO dude gets, this is amazing. Just gets completely lost in the
lines and dots, which means absolutely nothing.
But to him was like, apparently... The best thing he's ever seen.
You see the code of the Matrix or something.
Yeah, the most impressive thing he's seen for the last 20 years of his life or something like that. And then he just completely forgets about Tech Boy, which it's this the scene's kind of corny because it's like, why would he? Really, is he going to get so out of it on looking at the screen that he's just going to forget someone talking to him? But it's more metaphorical of the a god's first follower literally just forgetting about him, and that being the end of a god, I guess, is what the entire scene's supposed to be about. And this episode is basically all about gods. Can gods change? Can gods lose followers? Like, even like him and Media have a very short conversation at one point about like her rebirth, and she's like, well, I think I kind of remember the first Media, and then like if I come back as a new Media, will the new one remember me? And Tech Boy is like, you're a fucking god, just stop yabbering on, like full of shit and stuff like that. But she's kind of, Media's just trying to figure out her own stuff, I guess. And Media is an interesting thing because it is like, as we talked about, she's come back, she's new, she's fresh, she's into old things compared to older. So it's like, we'll talk about Tech Boy in a minute and his retirement. I'm kind of thinking that he's going to go down the same line, I guess. I
don't know. There's things that happen in the book that I don't know if they're going to do. So
well, yeah, you can't be sure. You really don't know, I suppose. So the CEO's encapsulated with what's happening on the screen, and it's funny because I hated obviously you're supposed to hate Tech Boy as a character, especially in the first. He comes in, he's fucking vaping in Shadow's face and all this sort of stuff. It's like, you fucking, I hate you so much. But for some reason in the scene, that when he's just kind of looking at him and he's like, I was your only friend, and he's like, he has a single tear come down his face. I was like, I'm not like crying with you, but at the same time I was like, oh, like it does,
towards him,
and I mean, and this is one of the reasons I kind of think this is the standard episode, because it does a lot of interest from this season so far. It just does a lot of interesting things with the concept of gods, and it's like, if you're going to do a show and a story about gods, I want to see more things like this where you're asking interesting questions and stuff about what happens if people forget about them, what can they, all these sort of things, can they change, blah 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 blah. So I think this episode kind of plays with some interesting ideas. Whether they continue it in the rest of the season, I doubt it, but
remains to be seen.
He runs off though, and he's like, I'll fucking show him or whatever, and he runs out of the room, and World just kind of stands there, and then he runs down a staircase, gets to the bottom, the door's locked, turns around, one of those face hugger things that Shadow got fucked up with in the first or second episode, whatever it was, season 1. He's just like, fuck, and then the thing grabs onto his face and zips him up into it, and he's gone
into the American Gods Pokeball.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. American Gods Pokeball, and off he goes. And then World smugly walks out of the building, I guess, with his victory and getting rid of Technical Boy. Then he spots the Girl Scouts on the way out who are sitting there. Would you like to buy cookies? And World's like, what are you supposed to be doing here?
There's no need to buy candy, and then he shows up in the fucking diner to hold 2 candy bars.
And then, so he talks to him, and then of course he shows up in the diner. And then another weird thing about this whole scene is he shows up there, and I'm like, they never did resolve why Money suddenly decides he'll talk to both of them or anything like that, or explain any whatever's going on with this, because he was having money problems.
Yeah, no, they were like in some sort of like suspended reality kind of thing. And
and Wednesday's like, you need to figure out your money problems, and you need to buy a fucking candy bar or something to get some track record here. But then when we come back to him, it's like, that's apparently solved. So I guess it's not important, but then why have it be a storyline in the first place if it's not important? Exactly. But they end up sitting down with Money, who's sitting at the back of the room, and it's very weird, this whole storyline with Money, because it seems non-relevant at all, and I don't even know why.
I think they just wanted to get the actor in to have like a fucking Deadwood reunion or something.
A funny scene, I guess, because it's like they literally sit down for a hot 2 minutes.
I don't know if they actually meet Money, but Money, from what I remember, is explained in concept in the book as not so much as an incorporeal being, but more like the idea of Money. It's just like things that connect everything together, like lines between cities and all that kind of stuff. So, I guess it's extrapolation of what they meant by that, I guess.
Yes, because Wednesday sits down, he's like, war, but it reminded me of Game of Thrones, where fucking Cersei's like, hey, the big bank.
With the Iron Banker,
Iron Bank, like, war's coming, look, war's good, like, give me the money, be on my side, war's profitable kind of thing, because he's like, Wednesday says the same thing, war's profitable, and then World's like, but nah.
Money's all just ones and zeros now.
Money's just ones and zeros now, not this paper shit that you're on about, whatever else. So
there's also an interesting note where he says to Wednesday something about they're not enemies or something like that. Because
eventually Money's like, fuck yous, I'm not signing with either of yous. He leaves, and I'm like, what the fuck was the point of this whole thing? And then World says, I'm not your enemy. And Wednesday's like, but I feel you are my enemy. So, and then World gets up and walks out the front door as well.
That could be implying a bigger bad's coming or something like that,
I guess, potentially. But I mean,
there's an interesting thing to note that he's called the bookkeeper or something like that. He pays for his meal or his coffee or whatever, and then they go snap back to reality. And Wednesday and Shadow are there, and then Wednesday scoops the money into his hat. So I don't know if that's their way of saying that he's actually siding with Wednesday.
Yeah, I was confused with that too, because when they're back in the diner, he looks in his hat and he has a big enough wad there. You know? Like it's more than a couple dollars. And he kind of flicks through it and then gives Shadow a look, and Shadow's like, but I was like, did he steal that somehow, or is that supposed to be as you're saying, a sign of
because World says it's all ones and zeros now, and then he ends up paying with cash. So I don't know if that's something to be read into, or it's just like a throwaway scene there.
I'm really not sure. I'm really not sure. I thought either way it was a weird way to end the episode, though. It's just
they've done that quite a few times.
They really don't know how to end them at this point, because it's, I feel like, I don't know. I don't even know if World needed to be there, really, unless his line about "I'm not your enemy" was really so important. But I don't feel like it is, and I feel like he's already said that at some previous stage as well. So I don't think that was necessary at all. Because in that case, have them have this fucking conversation with Money,
exactly,
and then end the episode with the death of, or the retirement in quotation marks, as World says. They do make sure to say, and I think that is relevant, because he's like, I retired a god today. He doesn't say I killed a god, I retired a god.
What does that mean?
In the concept of gods, what does retire mean? Then end the episode with that happening.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a lot more interesting way to end the episode for sure. I think
they've taken ending fucking lesson from Return of the King. They just keep on going.
They're like, here's an ending. How
another scene.
How many endings do you want this week, everyone? Yeah, have about 6. That's for sure. So wrapping up, as I've been saying, I do think this is the best episode of the season. I enjoyed the first episode. I'd say this is probably my favorite because I think it has a lot of interesting concepts set up and ideas and interesting things to play with for the rest of the season potentially, especially when it comes to Technical Boy and Bilquis and Nancy and all these sorts of things. I'm like, these are intriguing me. These are storylines that are intriguing me compared to, is fucking Salim and that coming back at next episode? I think that's what's happening. Go away, I'm sick of you. I was on your side. I was sticking up for you. Now I'm fucking over you, all right? I'll switch. Give me Nancy and all that now. So, but yeah, we are halfway through the season, and obviously I'm feeling better about the show halfway through it than you are.
I now I've kind of a little bit of time to think of it. I think my issue is that they're introducing all these kind of plot points and storylines, and even just by the way they've been finishing the episodes, I don't have faith in them to have the ability to wrap it all up or do it in a meaningful way. Like, it's just going to be shut out at the end, like with no real resolution. Well,
I'm feeling a little bit better with it not feeling like it's reaching the finish line this season because, of course, after episode 1, they announced it's coming back for season 3. So that kind of helped me for the rest of the season because now I am watching each episode going, this isn't the end. There is another season, and then potentially that season will have like 10 or 13 episodes, and they could make like season 3, the last one, it's 10 episodes, not 8 or something like that. I'm hoping that they only do 3. Look, at most, I could say you could stretch the show to 4 tops. That's my thing. You could push it to 4 tops. I don't think it could go past that at all.
It's kind of weird, the pacing of this show compared to the book as well, because Shadow spends quite a lot of time in Cairo, like working for Ibis and Jackal and learning about stuff. And there's the point in the book where Mad Sweeney dies in the book at that point. So I don't know, because they're obviously making him a bigger character.
He's a bigger character on the show,
Yeah, it's just very odd. Like, they're pushing through parts of the book, but to what end? Like, are they speeding through it to get to the end, or is it slow down in other parts? Or
I'm hoping because Neil Gaiman's more involved with the show from season 2 onwards, that he could have potentially struck some sort of roadmap for them to have with the show. Like, this is the storyline for this season, season 3, this, and then maybe season 4. Like, finish at season 3, finish at season 4. I'm hoping that's what he does. 'Cause, like, he's a person who doesn't really string out, his novels. Like, he doesn't have any long-running series. Is my thing. Like, he's someone who likes to finish things. So if he's involved behind the scenes, and I'm sure he'd rather see.
No, I did learn he's writing a sequel to American Gods too.
Yeah, so. Like, writing a sequel is different to a 20 sequel series that you spend a lot of your life on, I guess. But yeah, I'd say he'd want the show to finish well because it's one of his more beloved books. So I'm sure he'd like to see it wrapped up and done well on screen.
I'm more interested in Bad Omens at this stage.
I definitely feel like he was way more involved with Bad Omens, but he came onto this, and now I'm like, season 3 is potentially it's like season 2 is like a transitional season, and then season 3 is kind of the hopefully which is gonna be
odd because they're changing showrunners anyway
again. Yeah, no, but I'm hoping that some of the stuff is like straightened out a bit more, whatever else. I'd be interested to see the numbers and stuff by the time we get to the end of this season and stuff. Like, the reaction I read every week is a lot of negative reviews, and then similarly a lot of positive reviews. It's really weird. Like, a lot of it's like 2 stars for this episode. It was bad. And then I also find a review that's like, I just read the quick overview of the review after watching it, and it's like 4 stars. The direction the show's headed is much more interesting this season and stuff. So it's constantly up and down, and
I think it's rather one side of the fence or the other. There's no real fence sitting.
Yeah, and I feel that this was the first episode I watched this entire season where I've stopped comparing it to how it would have been like season 1. I think I'm past that now, because every episode prior to this I'd constantly be like, oh, but if it was season 1 still, but if it was season 1 still. This was the first episode I just sat down, I watched it for what the show it is now, and I didn't think about it at all, and I enjoyed it. I liked it, and so I'm happy. I'm happy with the show as it stands at the moment. Of course, we don't need to have that argument a million times over about would I prefer it to be back to season 1 standards. Yes, but like living in the past can only do you so good.
On.
Gotta move on for sure. So that's it for this week, unless you got any lasting wrap up theories and thoughts or anything.
Last episode I was wondering if they were going to incorporate Mr. Jackal from season 1, but I'd since learned he left the show for whatever reason.
There you go. that will explain that one.
He's not showing up, unfortunately.
No. Maybe they'll get him back for season 3, and then maybe we'll see.
Is this the first episode without Sweeney and Laura?
I feel like maybe they weren't in one episode last season or something, but it was the first episode without either of them this season. I
felt it was noticeable. I guess
it was
not so much that I miss them, that they've been so prominent that you notice their absence.
And they even included, like in episodes prior, they even just did that whole montage of him traveling across with the funny little stuff. So they'd always made an effort to have him still be in the show in some regard. But this episode, they really wanted. I preferred it because this episode we only had 3 character storylines to follow, whereas I feel like the episode before, what was we following? Like 18 different fucking people running around the place at the same
everyone
time.
was on their own fucking road trip.
Yeah, it was way too much. This episode, I'm like, I can follow 3 different things happening. That's a lot easier, and it makes my notes at the end of the show where I try and like put them in order into different topics a lot easier than what. Just stop. Then there's a random Bilquis scene and whatever else is going on, and fuck. Yeah, no, I much prefer this. Thank you very much. Next week, from what I could gather, it's going to be Laura showing up, meeting up with Mad Sweeney again. So we get them back together, which is good because they're probably my favorite combo to watch on the show, because they just have so much back and forth together. It's really good. So I think that's what's happening next episode. All right. Thank you for joining us on Viewing Gods this week. We are your Viewing Gods, Dylan and Nick. You can follow me on Twitter at VivaLadil, VRVALADIL. You can talk to Nick on Discord at explosionnetwork.com/Discord. And you can watch this show on youtube.com/Explosion Network, of course. If you're watching it there, don't forget to give it a thumbs up down below and subscribe to the channel. Or you can listen to this show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever podcast service you'd like to use it on. Of course, you can find much more great content, including our movie and TV podcast, What Do You Want to Watch, over at explosionnetwork.com as well. We will see you here next week. Don't swipe right. No, swipe left on Bilquis. She's becoming just
swipe her out of here.
Swipe her out of here. We're done with you, Bilquis. Just do something interesting. All right. Bye. See you next week. Bye.